Rosters coming into focus. Our friends in the desert are starting to make their calculations for the upcoming season. It's safe to say the Patriots will be up near the top somewhere. So we're going to make a few of our projections of our own here on Get Up. New England, everyone assumes, will be the best team in the AFC East. But you look at some of these numbers, are they 5 games better than the rest of the AFC East? And in case it bears a reminder, the Bills actually made the playoffs last year. People think of the division as being terrible. The Bills were in the playoffs. Are the Patriots, with all the stuff that we've seen go on during their offseason, in your mind, are they a prohibitive, overwhelming favorite to win the AFC East again?
That's a big favorite, but I'm not going to say they're not the favorite. Maybe 5 games is a little much. That seems like a stretch.
I know you're a little hesitant on this conversation because your squad happens to be in their division.
Yeah.
They've dominated that division. And that continues to aid their greatness because how the NFL is set up, if you're able to win your division, that clearly gives you home field advantage, and it propels their greatness. So being in a bad division has helped. Yes, they are 5 games ahead. Better
5, huh?
Yes.
I say no,
I'm taking
for whatever that's worth.
Whether they finish 5 games ahead or not, they are psychologically 5 games ahead. And your point is well taken. It should go farther. It is not a mystery that if you look at the rest of the division, all 3 teams have high first-round draft picks at the quarterback position because none of them have gotten it right during the Brady era. So the Patriots feel like a prohibitive favorite. Now, how about the Eagles? Will they win the most games in the NFC East? That's a division where teams are coming after them. Dallas making a bunch of moves. Obviously, the Giants with the huge acquisition of Saquon Barkley. Washington flip-flopping their quarterback situation, letting Cousins go. On comes Alex Smith. Are the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champs, the favorites again in the NFC East?
See, the Eagles get something back that's a luxury that people sleep on. A starting franchise quarterback.
Right.
They won the Super Bowl with their backup quarterback.
That's a good luxury.
And he was the Super Bowl MVP. Now they get their guy back. I'm rolling with the Eagles on this.
Oh, there's nothing not to roll with, right?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm going to float above this segment for a second. Are there people that say with all self-assurance 100% they know what's going to happen here?
Well,
like, are they like, yes, they will win 13?
For the betting public.
Yeah, here's the reason that you can never say that in any sport is because of the possibility of injury. And in football, that's compounded by a factor of 5 or 10 because injuries are so much more significant. Who would have thought that the Eagles would lose their starting quarterback, what should be the death blow for a franchise at the beginning of December for a player who was trending towards being maybe the MVP of the league and wind up winning the championship without him. I want to bring up quarterbacks again, though, because it brings us to Sam Darnold, who goes at number 3 overall. And the question then will become, are the Jets good enough to make the playoffs?
How did that get in there?
Well, here's why. Because their wide receiver, Quincy Enunwa, who was sort of trending towards being a good player at one point and then missed all of last season with an injury, made a pretty bold statement about the Patriots during a radio interview that he did with Tiki Barber and Brandon Tierney. He said of the Patriots, quote, "I think they're vulnerable. Not just that they're vulnerable, I think we're capable." How about that? I think we're capable of doing it. I think we're going to show it this year.
Oh,
now,
May.
Quincy Enunwa is a good player, but this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard a person say in my entire life. The Jets were 5-11 last year, and most people who watched them felt they overachieved. They just traded up to draft a quarterback who was 20 years old. You're not going to come across someone who wants the Jets to be good more than me.
So how did you feel when you read that the first time?
2 or 3 years away. Well, I happen to think it's irrelevant. I'm not big on all of this conversation. That's why I didn't mind a guy wearing a Drew Bledsoe jersey and all that. This is harmless. I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. Bill Belichick is going to beat the Jets twice this year, regardless of what Quincy Enunwa said.
I love Todd Bowles, and you gave me a great stat when you acknowledged that he's the longest tenured head coach in New York professional sports.
Correct.
That's a fascinating sport. But I agree with you.
Exactly.
The Jets have a long way to go to get on the Patriots level.
All right. Now, here's a story that, in reality, is the most important thing that we will talk about today. Researchers from VA Boston Healthcare System and Boston University School of Medicine led the latest study linking tackle football before the age of 12 with cognitive issues later in life. Here's Dr. Ann McKee on OTL yesterday.
We found in the football players who started to play tackle football before the age of 12, when they were compared to other football players who started after 12, they had an onset of their symptoms earlier by an average of 13 years. So that indicates that their brain resiliency, the healthiness of their brain, was changed by playing tackle football earlier than age 12.
Now, bear in mind, these studies are a long way away from being conclusive, particularly on whether or not these kids, if they play football at a young age and then stop playing, if that remains a problem. But here's where I think this gets interesting. We have seen multiple different states bring legislation to bear. None of it has passed that would ban tackling before the age of 12. It just came up in Illinois. Again, it did not pass. Is that something that if you, Jalen Rose, were on one of, if you were the governor of a state, if you had the power to make a decision like that, would you ban tackling at the youngest of age?
I would not, because that's when you learn your technique and you learn the fundamentals of the game in any sport. And this is a fascinating conversation for all of us, because this is really a question about our society. Are parents going to allow young people to play? Are coaches going to allow them to hit at a certain age? Regardless of what the rule is, you can legislate how much these young people hit, but ultimately, there's only so many hits your head can take. I don't care if it's football, I don't care if it's boxing. And so if you could try to protect them from themselves, you want to. But at this point, if they've decided they wanted to play football, I think they need to learn to play the right way.
Hockey, soccer, like they're all sports with ramifications.
Yeah, they take out headers in soccer.
Correct. But you can take out headers in soccer and still play soccer. People will say you can take tackling out of football and play flag football up until a certain age. But at some point, you are taking football out of football. And that is the question. Now, I noticed a tweet from your longtime colleague, Marcellus Wiley, on Sports Nation that I saw it in particular because you liked it and followed it. But he is one of many former players who has said, and he has a young boy, that he will not let him play football. Yeah, Junior is not. We've talked about it numerous times. You know, Marcellus will always tell you he plays so that Junior doesn't have to, and he can push him to do anything else, because there's a difference, I think. It's the same thing when cigarettes originally happened. People wanted to claim, well, we didn't really know what the results were going to be. Well, I mean, logic would tell you if you inhale smoke, it's probably bad for your insides, and it turns out it is. Same thing here. We know that hitting yourself in the head numerous times over is not good. Now we actually have empirical data that's proving this, and it will be up to parents. And what I worry is that not every parent's going to want to have this information, not every parent's going to get this information, and they won't have it to make the decision on. And as generations change, they rebrand things that aren't necessarily good for you. Like when I was growing up, cigarettes were cool. Right. And then now they rebranded and they're vaporizer. It's still tobacco. It's just flavored tobacco that they're selling to the young people, but they're not putting it on commercials and ads like they were able to. We'll get Ryan Clark in on this coming up in our next hour and continue this discussion. At the end of the day, this is about the future of football as we know it. Meanwhile, much more to come here on Get Up. In the NBA as well, the Celtics roll over the Sixers. You'll hear what Joel Embiid said afterwards and why Drew Bledsoe continues to inspire in Boston. We thank you for getting up with us on ESPN. Get up now. Get on up. Oh, it's all good, guys. Cute dogs. Here's working. This is evolution. Can I grow into another animal the next?